In order to confirm or refute this, the two flasks were taken to the laboratory for study immediately after the service. Here, the water was frozen in a cryogenic chamber and photographed under the microscope. The crystals of the tap water looked like a chaotic, diffused spot. While the water that had been in the church had the rectilinear symmetrical form of a six-pointed star. It is well known that holy water has a very powerful and stable structure. This water can pass its properties. Take only 10 grams of it and dilute it in 60 liters of common water, and the whole amount will have the properties of the holy water.
Perhaps scientists will tell us sometime what prayer is. Perhaps scientists will tell us sometime what happens with human nature under the influence of divine grace.
In my view, what Jesus did represented an informational influence on the water. He acted with his spirituality. He acted through higher spiritual powers. And it is now quite reasonable to imagine changing water in such a way that it would become fairly firm.
It could be radiation, but could it be only subtle energy? And we are very interested in how subtle energy can be detected by a material.
In our time, everybody is sure that weather on the planet is determined by cyclones and anticyclones. We accept the weatherman's daily forecasts as inevitable. Actually, we are waiting for water to make its appearance. Evaporating and turning into whimsical clouds and towering thunderheads, it creates the architectonics of the sky. The countless shades of sunrise and sunset, the rainbows that shoot across the sky, all of them result from the refraction of light rays by the moisture in the atmosphere. Clouds carry this moisture over great distances, and it spills down as rain. Rain, hail, snow and mist, winds and storms, gales and hurricanes. All of these complex processes depend on water's mood. We try to second guess how it is going to behave, and where on the earth it will bestow its favors, and where it will unleash its wrath. The most we can do is to observe these processes from space, but only observe them. But how alluring the thought is of subjugating the weather. What a sweet bait that is for human vanity. Many peoples have preserved the practice of influencing weather and atmospheric phenomena. These rituals are carefully passed down, unchanged, from generation to generation. If my tributes have been convincing enough, if I have chosen the right time and the right place, and have recited the mantras correctly, and from a pure heart, then the Lord of the water gives us water. We do not place much trust in actions which may be met with a smile these days. Could it be that just one human, not some huge modern laboratory with the latest technologies, but just a single person, could influence a natural process solely by the force of his desire and intentions?
And there was an outdoor wedding outside a museum in Ontario. And, well, we didn't bring umbrellas, but some people did. And the sky was all overcast, and the rain started to come. That was half an hour before the wedding. And it started to rain, all the umbrellas went up. And so I and two other students said, okay, let's meditate for better weather. Within a minute, an opening in the clouds came, and the sun just shone right down in this area. Only, not all over, just shone right down this area.
By the summer of 1991, Israel had had no rain for 2 years. The water in the country's only freshwater lake, Lake Kinneret, had fallen 15 centimeters below the critical level. Then, 10,000 Israelis gathered at the Wailing Wall to pray for rain. On the third day, rain came down on the country in torrents. Many people explain this fact as a simple coincidence.
Belief in coincidence is neither scientific nor religious. From a scientific standpoint, there is scientific determinism, while from a religious standpoint, there are things that are done which have an influence on the outcome. Coincidence is a way in which people try to escape bearing any responsibility.
Just as the cry of a bird in the mountains can cause a powerful avalanche, or the motion of a butterfly's wing can change the weather over an entire continent, likewise, people can launch global processes solely by the power of their thought.
Und das ist keine Übertreibung, sondern jeder, der sich mit Chaostheorie beschäftigt, weiß das.
And that is no exaggeration. Not a single scientist who is familiar with systems theory doubts that. It is entirely a question of waiting for a moment when the system is in a state of instability. In a phase of instability, the motion of thought alone is sufficient for the system to start to change.
Und es kommt zum Wechsel eines ganzen Systems.
I do not always see it. When my own mistake or sin comes back to me in another guise, although essentially it is a single unit, whatever it is that I did wrong returns to me, not as punishment, but as a result.
With all the abundance of water on the planet, less than 1% of it is available fresh water. This supply has been practically unchanged in the course of human history, while the population has been constantly growing. The world has never seen as many people as there are on the planet today, 6.5 billion. There would have been enough fresh water for everybody if it were not for the severe attack of the human civilization.
Look, imagine, if there will simply not be any water, that it will go away deep underground. Who shall give you water, which will spout freely from the ground and be easy for you to reach?
Today, more than 1 billion people of the earth lack access to safe drinking water. Over 5 million people, half of them children, die from this reason each year. This is 10 times more than perish from wars each year. If this problem is left unsolved, water may become a source of international conflict in the 21st century. Already now, it is gradually attaining the status of a base resource, which is beginning to figure in the political dialogue among countries and peoples.
See, we talk a lot about an upcoming oil crisis because we will run out of oil. But I think it is even more important that we worry about the water, that we don't run into a water crisis.
According to UN data, around 10 million tons of oil annually pours into the world's oceans. Along the U.S. Atlantic coast are buried 90,000 containers of radioactive waste with 100 kilocuries of activity, while the European part has 500 kilocuries. Countries with sea access dump industrial, construction, and radioactive waste into the ocean. As it is dumped and descends through a column of water, some of the polluting substances dissolve and change not only the quality of the water, but also its memory.
The ocean is also still capable of erasing these memories because of its salinity. But nonetheless, the dilution effect is there. It also needs to be discussed and studied. Because at very great levels of dilution, sometimes a memory begins to have even a stronger influence than at slight, so to speak, levels of dilution with high concentrations. We have to pay attention to this.
This is a very difficult period of our planetary existence. Today, we've already plowed up all the lands possible, and we've lost 33% of our green covering and half the plankton in the ocean. So the problem might seem to be far off, but there is water everywhere.
In the past year, the temperature of the cold deep-sea waters under the Gulf Stream fell by 1 degree. In the past 9 years, the rate of melting of Greenland's icebergs has tripled. In the past 30 years, the destructive force of hurricanes has doubled. The number of natural disasters is rising. In the decade from 1973 through 1982, 1,500 disasters occurred worldwide. In 1983 to 1992, there were 3,500. In 1993 to 2002, there were 6,000. 226,000 people died or disappeared during the December 2004 tsunami in Southeast Asia, while 500,000 were left homeless. The October 2005 flood in Europe left 200,000 people homeless. Over 1,300 people died during Hurricane Katrina in August 2005. 1 million people were left homeless. Almost 4 million people have died in natural disasters during the past 30 years, while 4.5 billion people were affected.